starting Ois Zion. And the Rebbe discussed how, after the impact of the person bringing down into the world from the Seviv Kol Almin, the Bechol Nafshecha, then the world and the person was chaser, the nefesh was chaser. So after that, the world itself also becomes a chaser. The world itself, lacking the ashirus from Sefer Kol Almim, is a chaser. The Rebbe is going to explain this uh, further now in Isaiah. Yes, lahaisi biur, but we can add explanation in this. Api mashakosu b'hamaimer, based what is written in the Maimer, the Shnei ha'inyonim, the Sebev u'memale hem Shnei Hashemes the Havaya v'Elikim, that the two ideas of the Sebev Kol Almin that surrounds and fills the worlds are the two names of Havaya and Elikim. Basically, Memale is Elikim, and Sebev is Havaya. This way we'll understand the way it works by Havaya and Elikim. We'll compare that to Seviv Mamali. That Seviv Mamali is similar to what we know of Havaya and Elikim. Now, the Rebbe first explains that Elikim is not just a block for Havaya, so that in order for the world to exist, it has to go through the tzimtzum, it has to go through the restriction of Elikim. No. Elikim is the light that comes through the tzimtzum, is called Elikim. Elikim is not merely a restriction for Havaya, but the restricted light that comes through Elikim is called Elikim. Explains. Let explain in several pages. That's why we can call it the Oir HaMemale, because that is a light too. Elikim is actually a light. Become a Mekoimes, the Shem Elikim who loy rak hamogrim v'nartek shemaylim u'mastir alo the Shem Havaya. That the name Elikim is not only a shield, a sheath that blocks, obscures, and hides the Shem Havaya. Which means then, if that's all what the Shem Elikim did, we couldn't call it an Oir HaMemali. It's not an Oir, it's only a block. But the answer is no. Elo, Shagam Ha'oir D'Shem Havaya. K'moi Shenimshach U'misamtzem Al Yidei Shem Elikim. That also the light of the Shem Havaya, as it extends, and it is restricted by the Shem Elikim, Liyos Moker L'Nivroim. So that oir of Havaya that has become restricted so that it can become a mocker, a source for created being, generally that's the Ramale, Nikra Likim. It's called the Likim. So we're saying the restricted light of Havaya, the restricted light is called Elikim. That's now the level of Elikim. Okay, so that's the level of Mamalaklam. So now he says, Pi Mashakosu B'Tanya. But based on what it's written in Tanya, So you have seemingly a conflict of here. Right now, we're saying that there is an oir havaya that comes limited, which becomes Shem Elikim. But turns out that the creation is from Shem Elikim because the oir, the restricted oir, is Elikim. But the Rebbe brings from Tanya that the actual creation has to come from Sevev Klam. Vafi Masha Kosu B'Tanya, based on what is written in Tanya. She's Havus Ha'olam. He, B'Shem Havaya, the world was created from the name Havaya, not from Elikim. Why Havaya? Because Havaya is Loshem Hava. The word Havaya means that creates. That's why the world comes from Shem Havaya. It can't go from Shem Elikim. Havaya means that it creates. It's the Shem Havaya that creates. Elo. So why do we need the Shem Elikim? Elo Shem'im his hava ha'his havus. Oiso b'Shem Havaya atzmei. Had the creation be just from the Shem Havaya itself, without the limitations and the restrictions of the Shem Elikim, Hoya ha'olam batul b'metzias, the world would be negated from its existence. It would not be the existence the way it is. You can't have directly come the Shem Havaya to create directly. You can't, because if it comes directly without the limitation of the Shem Elikim, everything would be bottled. It would be non-existent. Be bottled mitzias. V'loche. And therefore, ha'his havus bepoil hoisa yidei Shem Elikim. The actual creation needed to be Shem Elikim. That's what explained in Tanya. So now we're explaining that Sevev and Mamale are equal or the equivalent of the Havaya Elikim. And we also explained the way it works by the Havaya and Elikim, that the main creation is from Havaya. But Havaya itself cannot create a separate Amitzias. It would have been Batal B'Mitzias. So it needs the Shem Elikim to restrict the light of Havaya in order for it to be able to create a Metzias, something is the Metzias. So Yesh Loimar Shal Derech Zehu Gam Be'oinyan the Sevev Amamale. It's a similar idea with Sevev Amamale, how the creation works. It's not like they're totally separate, but Memale is what restricts Soivev so that Soivev can create. She'iker, or that Soivev can fill the come into the world. She'iker Chayis Ha'olam, the main vitality of the world, whom Me'er HaSoivev, is from the Me'er HaSoivev, which is the Havaya. But in order for the world to be limited, so the way the vitality comes in the world, it comes through Memali, it comes through Alikim. Just like the shame Havaya creates, but in order it should be created a limited mitzias, it needs to go through Elikim. The same thing is with Sevev and Mamale. The main thing comes from Sevev because that's the energy, main energy. But in order for this world to be limited, is through Mamale. Ushnei inyonim bozeh. There is two ideas in this, that we're saying that the world is really from Soivev, but the Memale functions as a limitation for that light that comes down. So there's two ideas here. She'etzem chayis ha'olam hu mesegev. So one, we were saying that what is the essence of the life of the world? Not memale, but essence is sovev. Because it's this sovev that gets limited so that the world would be able to have a limited chayis, but the chayis is sovev. Elo, shebe'im ho'yo nimshach boi ha'chayis. If the world, if we would extend into the world the vitality from the Sovev itself, so then the world would not be limited, kolkach. Says, wouldn't be such a limited world. All created beings would be equal. It wouldn't be this separation. There wouldn't be such a limited world. Similar to what's explained in the Tanya, the beim his havus oilam hoisom b'shem havaya atzmoi, that if the creation would have been from Shem Havaya itself, here we're saying with regards to Sovev. So in Tanya it says that had the world creation be just from Shem Havaya, lo yehoya boy ha'yischalkus this manamokim. There would not have been the dividing, these divisions of time and space, if it would be just from the Shem Havaya. Similarly, if the chayis of the world is from Sovev Kol Almim, we don't have all the distinction, we don't have separation. Val Yidei Shahachayis Shema HaSovev Nimshach Al Yidei HaMemale, and the fact that the chayis of the Sovev extends through the Memale Shemislavish B'chol Nibra Lefi Erkei, and it dresses up in every created being according to their level, Nasa B'hem HaYischalkus, that creates the division within the creations. All the creations is different. That is because one idea why the Seviv comes in the Mala. And then there's another aspect to this. Shagam hachayis the oilam shebehagbolo b'yischalkus, that also that chayis of the world, which went through the Shem Elikim and it became limited b'yischalkus and differentiated and separated. Shenimshach ha'meir ha'memali, that coming from Meir ha'memali, uloi mitzad atzmei. So it's not because of Memali himself. Elo mitzad hasovev becomes sovev. The sovev is the one that energizes the memale for the memale to be the life force. Again, so what are the two things? The number one thing is that the only reason we need memale is for it to be his chalkus in the world. So it's really all about sovev, but sovev itself can't bring the separation, can't bring Metzias into the world, so we need memale. Point number two, even when that light is already limited by the power of memale kol almim, still the energy that it has is not on its own, but it comes from the sovev. So it explains now the way we also can see this in the soul, the way the soul vitalizes the body. We said before, there is the level of the soul, which is the hispashtus achayis, which goes into the body. That's like memale kol almim. And then you have the soul itself is a living thing. That's chai be'etzem. That's the idea of sovev kol. And we see how it functions over there. Let's look inside. Inyan who the idea is explained in the Maimer. Hu v'li'il siv daled was brought down before Sidal, the Memale who dugmas chayus hanefesh hamispashet b'aguf. That Memale is similar to the vitality of the soul that expands into the body. V'soivev hu dugmas chayus hanefesh atzmo, that's the example, is the vitality of the soul itself, chai be'etzem, that it's a living thing. The chai is that comes from the nefesh to the body, and then the chai is that the nefesh itself is chai be'etzem. That's the seviv kol. And based on what is explained elsewhere, זה שהחייס המספשת מהנפש מחייס הגוף הוא לפי שהוא דבוק בהנפש עצמו. This, that the energy that comes from the nefesh, that expands the nefesh, has the power to vitalize the body. Where does that chayis that vitalizes the body, the chayis that comes from the nefesh, expands? How does he do that? That is because it's connected to the soul itself, which is lives the essence is alive. This is the second point that we just spoke in the memale, getting its chayis from soviv. In the nefesh, the way the nefesh mispashet the chayis in the guf is because it is attached to the nefesh, which is a chay be'etzem. The hachayis, the hispashtus, the hachayis mitzad atzmai, because that vitality of expansion of chayis of the soul on its own, not for that it is connected to the etzem chayis of the soul, but just by itself, that chayis itself, ein bekoicho lahachyis davar. It has no power to vitalize anything. V'zeh shehachayis hamispashet mehanefesh mechaye es haguf. The fact that the energy that expands from the soul is able to vitalize the body, that comes because it is connected to this soul. Shu chai be'etzem. Shehi chai be'etzem. The nefesh is chai on its own. So the reason why the chayis hamispashet has the koyach to vitalize the body is because it's connected to the nefesh, which is a chai be'etzem. The chayis hamispashet, not for the fact that it's connected to the etzem hanefesh, cannot vitalize anything. The only reason it can vitalize is because of its connection to the chai be'etzem, to the nefesh, which is a chai be'etzem. Similar to the second point the Rebbe brought before, by seviv kol almim, being that the malakul almim, that is connected to seviv kol almim, that gives it the chayis to vitalize the world. V'zeh shehachayis hamispashet mehanefesh mechayis yesh lo ulifshadov nefesh chabetz yesh lo imar d'k'moikein hu b'inyan the malo v'seviv. So we can say the same thing malo v'seviv. The hakoyach sheba'oid hamemali, the power of the light that fills the hispashtus hachayis, which is the expansion of the chayis, lahachis es anivroim, to vitalize the created being, who loy mitzad atzmai, it's not on its own. Elo mipnei shehu davik b'hasoivev chai be'etzem. It is because it's connected to the soivev, which is chai be'etzem. Al pizeh yesh lovayir mashekosu b'hamaimer. So this we can explain what is written in the Maimer Huvali Il Siv Dalet that was brought down earlier in Siv Dalet. The Bechinas HaSoivev Nikra, he referred to the Soivev Chaye HaChayim, the life of life, or chai olamim, or chai olamim, chai bepasach, that it lives forever, chai be'etzem. These two names that we call it chaya, chayim, and chaye, Elamim, represent these two ideas that A, it comes from Sovev, and B, even when it's Mechaye, it connects, it is Mechaye because it's connected to Sovev. The Yeshloimar, the Shnei Hashemis, we can say these two names of Chaye HaChayim, these are both for Sovev. It gives life to life, and also V'chaye Elamim, and it lives eternally. Moirim al Shnei Inyanim, they point at two matters, the two aspects. That's why there's the two names. The fact we call it the life of life, Ulifi Shemimenu Nimshach HaChay is the Memalik. That is, and because the life comes, the Chayim, which is the Memalik, comes from Chaye, it's the Chaye HaChay. The life form Memale. It's the Sovev is the Chaye from the Chayim. It's Nimshach HaChay Memale. But the Zeh Shenikra Chay Elamim. That's what we call the Chayis, the Sovev Chay Elamim, Ulevi Shemimenu Nimshach HaKoyach B'HaChayis Da Memale L'Chayis Elamis. As HaElamis. It's called, the Sovev is called Chay Elamim, is because it is from this Sovev that extends the Koyach in the Chayes of Mala to fulfill the world, is because it's connected to the Sovev. That's the Chay Elamim. Yesh Lahoisif. So we have these two ideas that the connection to the connection of Memali to Sovev that gives it that energy, that's represented in Chay Elamim. That Sovev is the one that gives it the Chayis. Chaya Chayim represents where it comes from Sovev. Yesh Lahoisif Gnev. The Zeh Shebehachayis HaMispashet Lahachis Es HaGuf Bizgal Ha'inyan the Chay Be'etzem. The fact is that in the chayis that expands to the body, the fact that you see that you become alive when the chayis comes to the body, and mizgalo in the b'chay be'etzem, so you reveal that there is the idea that there's something that is living in essence, which is the neshama, because otherwise the Chayis could not give life if it wasn't the Chay Be'etzem. So when it gives life, now we see that there's Chay Be'etzem. In the fact that it has the ability to vitalize the body, so we see that there is a Chay Be'etzem, otherwise it couldn't vitalize. So, Av She'etzem L'maylo Mihis Pashtus. So even though the essence is beyond of expansion, and here we're saying that technically the etzem comes out in the his pashtus, but etzem, because the chayis of the world is because of the chay be'etzem, so it essentially means that the Chay Be'etzem expands into the Nivroim, so into the created. Ulifi Sheho'inyan the Chay Be'etzem Ugam Ha'etzem Shel HaChayis HaMishpashet. Because this idea that it lives Be'etzem is not just a Chayis Be'etzem of the Neshama, but it's the Chay Be'etzem is the etzem of the chayis hamispashet. That chayis that is mispashet is its essence is chay be'etzem. ועל פי זה יש לומר, הכוונה בזה שהסובב נקרא חיי החיים, when we say that the סובב is called the חיי החיים, the החייס, המהוז והעצם, של החיים ממלא הוא הסובב. It's not the nefesh different, but the חיי החיים is the etzem of the chayis, the etzem shel hachayim memale hu haseviv, that the essence of the chayim is the seviv. So we're saying that the etzem of the hispashtus is the level of seviv. It's not only the etzem of the neshama, but it's the etzem of the hispashtus. The etzem of the hispashtus is the chaye hachayim, that is the level of seviv. So the Rebbe added now that we talked about before about the etzem hanefesh, we talked about the hispashtus, and the Rebbe extended the etzem haneshama also to the etzem of the hispashtus, and that's why it can it can be nispashed, because it's the etzem of the hispashtus, not just the etzem of the nefesh. So we can say dal yidei shnei hanyonim shebehachayis hameluvish b'ha'olam, through the two aspects in the vitality that is dressed up in the world, the soivev that comes down into the world. What are the two aspects? Shebegilui uchayis mugbal. Openly, it's a limited chayis, but essentially we know that it comes from soivev kol almim. Shebegilui uchayis mugbal. V'shebepnimis hu bilti mugbal, but inside it's bilti mugbal. Shalachem b'cholti l'havas nevraim kinal. That's why it can create the nevraim, because it's connected to the sovev, because otherwise it would not be able to create anything. So it means, while it appears to be limited, but inner of it, it's unlimited. It's connected to the sovev. So yeshnam tugmas shnei yonim elu b'ha'olam. So similar, we have these two similarities in the world, just like in the chayis. The chayis of memale kol almim appears to be mugbal, but yet it is connected to this sovev, which means inside it's bli mugbal, because otherwise it cannot create anything with just being a mugbal. The chayis, this similarly is also in the world. The bichitzonius hachayis ha'olam tzorich elo, that externally, what is the vitality that the world needs it? Hurak chayis betzumtzem umuat. It's only a restricted light and a small amount. That is the need that the world needs externally. V'gilui ha-sovev hu b'chlal ashirus. And to bring down sovev into the world, that's called wealth. Because the world doesn't need the level of sovev, doesn't need the level of this bligvul, and to get the bligvul in the world, that's ashirus. Ubepnimius ha'olam, but in the inner world, nirgash ha'pnimius shel ha'chayis shaboy. But in the inner world, you can sense the inner of the energy that is in the world, which means so the world, in the pnimis of the world, you sense the pnimis of that chayis, of that memalekul almim, that it's not really memalekul almim, that it's really blikvul. How does this Mamalik Almin Oir, how does it have the power to give life? Is because it's connected to the level of Chai Be'etzem, to the level of Seviv Kulam. So that's the pneumius of the world. How could it create? The visible Chai is that it needs is a little bit. But the pneumius, it couldn't create with that limited Chayas. It's really because it has the Seviv Kulam, it has the Darga of Chai Be'etzem that it creates. So, Al Yidei Hadarga. So now it's explaining the idea how we create in the world also. Al Yidei Hadarga the Bechol Nafshecha, the Hanishamas. And when it's Bechol Levav Chol Nafshecha of the Nishamas, they serve with Bechol Nafshecha. Is Mizgale Hapnimi is the Ha'ila. So now you reveal the inner of the world, that the inner of the world is really what is really Seviv Kulam. So also the world in itself is also lacking of the Seviv. Through the revelation of this Seviv, then you fill the chesaron of the world. Therefore, because this whole explanation, what the Rebbe brought out over here is that really hidden in the world itself is the level of Seviv, is the level of Chai Elam, Chai Be'etzem. But you don't see that openly. Openly, it looks like you just need the Gilimut, but in reality, in order for the Eir HaMemali to create, it needs to have Eir HaSeviv. Inner, it has Eir HaSeviv in it. When you are Megale, the Pneumius of the Olam, so then the Gilu HaSeviv becomes Milu HaChisoren, and not just something which is extra, the liquid form, because it becomes because it's really laxing, because in the inner world there is the level of Seviv. So this is not just a level of Ashirus, but it becomes a level of Sheikh Sabay. The Rebbe will continue to discuss in this class that now that we're saying that the world becomes itself, that even level of service Ashirus will understand. So what is Ashirus in itself, which is the revelation, not Ashayach but real, what is Ashirus, not the level of Shayach Saloi. So what is Ashirus, as the Rebbe will continue to explain. Okay, let's leave it over here, and then we'll be Mamshech. Be'ezer Hashem.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a good day.